All right, so I see a lot of people are here from LA, and I'm not sure if some of you guys will actually drive back. So just imagine this scenario, right? You're trying to get back on 15 South, and you're Las Vegas Boulevard, and instead of giving you directions, your GPS actually starts giving you what your current coordinates are, what the coordinates of the destination will be, what's the temperature, what's the crowd like, and the distance to destination. And after a couple of minutes, you'll start going crazy. You'll be like, just let me know how to get out of the Las Vegas Boulevard and get on 15 South. That's all I want to know. And in response to that, it gives you more data. It gives you how many cars are in front of you. And that's, in essence, what I plan to talk about today. And stay with me. I'll connect the dots as we go. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you to Deliver America for having me here. It's a great opportunity. And also for hosting it in Las Vegas. Hey, look at this. Look at the bright side. We are all here with our own agendas. And even if none of them work out, we can say we were in Vegas for a couple of days. Can't be that bad. So with that, I'm going to jump straight into it. My name is Niraj Jha. I've been in and around heavy machinery, processes, automation, and logistics for the last 20 years of my life. Before I jumped into the world of high-speed manufacturing, I used to work on cargo ships. My past was a merchant marine. So basically, my whole life has been around machines and operations. And today, what we want to talk about is dashboards to decision engines, right? So let's go back to our GPS example, right? And if I were to ask, hey, how is it that people so easily follow the GPS? It's primarily because it gives you directions. It doesn't give you the data behind those directions. It doesn't bore you with all the data and coordinates that go behind giving you this final directions, right? And our lives are kind of similar in the world we operate in. Imagine Joe. Joe is a senior operations manager in a manufacturing company, right? He starts his Monday morning where his dashboards start updating. Now, if Joe is a smart guy and a very diligent guy, he'll painstakingly open dashboards after dashboards looking for the specific KPIs that impact his life. Now, if he's a little bit of a lazy guy, he'll wait for his boss to ping him. Maybe his boss pings him, maybe he doesn't. Maybe some of his KPIs are on and some of them are not. Let's say his boss asks him about a specific KPIs. Joe will then go and try to look for more dashboards to see how to connect the dots, and then something will start falling apart. Why? Because he works in supply chain. It's never an easy day. Something is always blowing up. And then what will happen by lunch, he has 10 open dashboard windows, and he's kind of forgotten about it. He's going to move on, and life will go on. Worst case scenario, Thursday, his boss will ping him again and asking about the same thing. He'll scramble again, try to come up with some answers, and so on and so forth. And then we'll be in week 50. We'll be close to Christmas. And then Joe might run into his skip level who will ask him, hey, can you give me the top 3 issues that you encountered this year? And he'll be scratching his head thinking, well, a lot of bad things happen. Let me go back to the emails. Let me open more dashboards. And let me figure out how to get this guy off my back. I just need to go back and solve more problems. Like, this is just life of Joe in a manufacturing company or an operations universe, right? And then within that company, there are hundreds of people deployed to build those dashboards who are obviously needed. But in essence, what happens is his day ends or the year ends with trying to scramble, looking through emails, old dashboards, and figuring out an answer. Now, it doesn't have to be like this, right? With the ChatGPT moment that hit us, we all kind of were made aware of one thing, that data is great, it's here to stay, and dashboards are not a bad thing, it's a great thing. But to exist and make decisions based on things that have already happened is not maximizing the framework that technology gives us today, right? So we have had the limitations of traditional dashboards show in our day-to-day lives, where we go in, we look at what has already happened, and try to come up with answers around that. With analytics, the progress that has been made around analytics and AI, we can definitely move to a world which is more proactive. Now, the great companies of tomorrow, the great operators of tomorrow, are going to be the ones that do not just rest their hats on having dashboards and retroactive data, but are are going to be able to build frameworks that's going to tell them what the tomorrow is going to look like, right? As they say, great managers build great processes. The saying for tomorrow will be great managers build great decision engines that work with or without their presence. So let's go back to the world of Joe. Now it's peak season, and this is what I called a Monday morning madness. Joe gets a massive sales order, a rush order from its top big box retailer because of a weather event that has happened. Now that weather event has impacted not just his business, but multiple other businesses around him, right? He's got a rush order for 50 trucks to a specific rural area which was hit by the weather event. Now, Joe is a great guy. He loves his team. He works in a matrix organization. He's got planning reporting into him. He's got customer service. He's got the works. He's got the carrier relations, the guy who procures the trucks, the intra-logistics, all the stuff. Now, this is the moment for Joe to shine. He loves it. He loves these moments. He brings them all in, and he asks them these 4 questions. Tell me, where do I have the product? Do I even have the product? Do I need to make more of it? What's the optimum ship point for this product? Is there enough product in the optimum ship point, or do I need to get dynamic shipping going from some other location? Question number 2, if I pull all the product and give it to this customer that has given me the rush order, what happens to the other customers? Will I run them out of stock? Are there fines and fees associated with running them out of stock? Are there SLAs that I need to meet with those specific customers so that I don't lose their business in the next bidding cycle? Third question, how much is it going to cost me? I can go get all the trucks in the world in a perfect world, but will it come at a prohibitive cost that will leave me with no margin for error, that will leave me with basically making no money on it? And last but not the least, how do I put all of this together and make sure the product gets to the customer by Thursday? But that's when they want it by, right? And then the team goes back, they start opening dashboards, they start opening their specific workstations, emails happen, Excel sheets get formed, and multiple meetings later, they come up with those decisions. Now, that's not a bad place to be, by the way, right? Compared from an era when none of that existed. That is a great place to be. However, these decisions are error-prone. It depends on who is making them. It is also very much subject to who's making the loudest noise. Right? There is no clear logic or framework that makes this decision pass a test of time. And in a lot of companies, there is no postmortem. Nobody goes back and looks at and says, hey, we shipped 50 truckloads. We made all of those shipments. We did great. We did high fives. Did we make any money on it? None of that kind of goes back and happens. So in the new world, right, where we will say that could there have been a better way to do this, right? Could Joe have done it in a better way? Now, let's say if there's a decision engine, right? And before I talk about it, I want to just say that I'm not talking about flying cars or blenders that turn into house cleaning robots. I'm not talking about making human a multi-planetary species. This is the stuff that exists around us, and this is the stuff, if we painstakingly look through and peel the layers and get ourselves involved in, is very much possible today. It's not going to be easy, but it's very much possible even within the limitations of technology that exists. So with that said, let's say there's a decision engine that has been, we call it optimization engine, right? And it takes inputs from all of those different factors we talked about. It takes input from planning. Where is my product? How many 3PLs do I have? How much time will it take for me to get that product to the destination location? What carriers should I involve? What's the performance of those carriers on those lanes? They might be the cheapest guy, but they might never get you the product there on time. Are they familiar with multi-stop deliveries? Are they familiar with delivering products in rural areas and so on and so forth? How much money will I make? What will be my margin after everything is said and done? And last but not the least, are there any fines and fees associated with customers who will be impacted because I sucked up all the volume and gave it to another customer? So all said and done, what this decision engine might do, this decision engine might squeeze the timeline for 3 or 4 days into hours, if not minutes, and give you an answer such as source 90% of your required product from the Dallas warehouse. The remaining 10% comes from Charlotte. Your profit margin in this will be 8.2%, and give all of these loads to carrier B, who has a relatively higher cost of delivery, but a great service in multi-stop shipments in rural areas. Now, I'm going to go and connect it back to the GPS analogy. The GPS will give you all the directions, but you're still the driver. You're still behind the wheels. You still decide whether to take the exit or not. You still decide when to accelerate, when to brake, and when to stop. And above all, you're the one who decides where to go, right? So all of that still applies to this. The optimization engine will give you the options, but you still press the button. You still decide whether you want to do it or not. And then there's more to it, right? What decisions were made on Monday might not be good for Tuesday. Why? Because Tuesday a production line in Dallas broke down. Guess what? They were having a bad day. They didn't have the lead mechanic there. They could not fix the lines on time. And now, what do? Go back to the Excel sheets? No, the optimization engine will continue to run, and it will tell you that you have two options. Either let your customer know that 44 of the 50 loads they asked for will show up on time, the rest 6 will show up 2 days later, or you drop your profit margin from 8.2% to 4% and source more product from Charlotte and make all the deliveries. Now you will still be the one deciding what's more important to you. Make more money in this or stay through the customer orders and meet your SLAs. So, like I said, right, our dashboards currently shows everything. Like I work in a great organization. We have a very robust system of dashboards, and I'm sure all of you do too, right? And our dashboards give us everything we could possibly want to know. It tells us what shipments are in transit. It tells us what multi-warehouse visibility we need, and so on and so forth. But do they translate into decisions? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And being in supply chain and logistics, right, what keeps us up at night is the possibility of disruptions. A plant goes down. A customer tells us that we cannot take your orders anymore because our warehouses are full. A global pandemic hits us. There's a port blockade in LA. Our trucks are stuck in a traffic somewhere in 10, and so on and so forth. The list is endless, right? And what separates good companies from great companies are that they move from being reactive to what happens to becoming proactive. And how do you become proactive, right, with the decision engines, right? Let's say you have been continuously leveraging all your loads with a specific carrier. They've been performing great. Now, there might be a moment your decision engine will prompt you and say, hey, 60% of your shipments in the Northeast are going through just one carrier. You might want to diversify. That's putting too many eggs in the same basket, right? You might still not want to do it, but you are very well aware that you are very heavily leveraged with just one carrier in a very specific lane. Similarly, if I were to draw a sports analogy, I'd say that, in most sports situations, the coach runs different scenarios. The coach doesn't know how the game's going to play out. The coach doesn't know where the ball will go. But it gets its player again and again and builds those muscles that tell them how to react if X happens, or how to react with Y happens. And these decision engines eventually will be doing something similar for your organization, right? We can optimize inventory, right? We often want to be on the safer side, and we want to put product where the requirement is. Now, that's all locked capital. How much product to put in a warehouse, right? If we go too low, we have too little insurance. If we go too high, we are wasting capital, right? Vendor manage inventory. Some of our vendors give us that privilege to manage their inventory. And we often run into a contradictory situation here, right? We sometimes take up too much of their space, and we sometimes take too little of their space. And that's generally driven by forecasting. Forecasting is driven by historical sales, right? But what about upcoming deals that a competitor might be putting together? What about the weather pattern changes? What about a specific festival that hits a certain region, right? What about some of the macroeconomic conditions that will impact your market, right? Every company, and based on the domain they are in, reacts very different to recession. Some of them do better, some of them do worse, right? So all of that said and done, your forecasting becomes the core of your operations, right? And how do you keep it dynamic? How do you make sure the VMI privileges that you have continues to stay with you because you're optimizing your customer's warehouse space, right? Pricing and margin optimization. If you just simply think about the fact that a lot of time, our pricing isn't a dynamic thing, right? We go in cycles and we talk about the margin compression as and when they happen. However, your supply chain doesn't stay still, right? Things are constantly changing, things are constantly breaking. This proactive approach will allow companies to have a more dynamic pricing model, right? Last but not the least, sustainability and efficiency. That might not be a buzzword right now. However, most of the companies who continue to rely on sustainability are doing it with a brutal concept of increasing their profit margin. Basically saying, we are going to do more with less, right? That's exactly how sustainability and efficiency are coming together. And this is how, if we are able to build these decision engines, are going to continue to drive that, right? If we talk about a simple architecture of a decision engine, it senses, it stimulates, decides, acts, and learn. Very simple things, right? Can it be done in any level of organization? I believe so. I think so. The data exists. And how do you, as a manager who is sitting on top of all of these data and processes, go about it, right? My personal advice is, before you go too far trying to understand AI, before you go and watch all of those keynotes about different people and what they're doing, try to do something small. Try to pick up a problem in your life or at work, right? And try to see if you individually, without going to your IT team, without talking to anybody, by simply using ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever your favorite tool is, can at least get close to the problem. There's a lot of power to it. I'm not saying why. Because a lot of time we look at these moonshot ideas, we talk about it, we make presentations and take it to our bosses. And then we say it's great, but you know, we're not an IT company, we're not enabled for all of this. Let's get a vendor. The vendor does not know how to run your business. That's number one. No company will know how your operation is or should be better than you. The question is, how do you take those operational efficiencies and the knowledge and the tribal knowledge that's locked in and digitize it, right? And that's not going to happen if you just call a vendor and say, hey, make me smarter. It's like saying, hey, just make me look better. No, you got to go to the gym. You need to figure out what works for your body and all of that stuff that happens in between. It's painful. It's not fun. You'll have to sit in front of the screen. But I'm saying it from my personal experience. I have done it. And part of me becoming a believer in this comes from that. So let me talk about one more thing that I'm really passionate about, right? How IoT and AI are coming together to build intelligent factory floors, right? Let's take another quick example. This time it's not Joe. It's a different guy. He runs the factory floor. He has these big machines around him, right? And one of his machines is the heart of his factory. During peak season, that machine is everything they need. It pumps out widgets like anything, makes them a lot of money. Now his maintenance team comes to him and says, hey, you know what? The main bearing of that machine that costs $50,000 is about to go out. And he's like, how do you know that? Well, that's what the OEM recommended hour says. You better change it. If not, you will have unplanned downtime. Now, this manager is caught between a hard rock and a hard place, right? He's like, if I don't do it, then I will be expected to just wing it. And let's say if it crashes at night, we go through an unplanned downtime, I might lose my job, and I will hurt a lot of customers. The other is to say, let's stop this, go spend $50,000, change it, and take 2 days of downtime. That 2 days of downtime could potentially occur millions, if not more, in dynamic shipping because product has to be brought in from the other end of the country. A dilemma a lot of operation managers face. Now, what does this guy do? Well, option one, just wing it, pray, and hope is a strategy, run with that. Number two is go buy that insurance, just get it done today. But there could be a middle ground with where we stand with technology, right? There are multiple sensors now within our machinery that reads everything from vibration data to temperature. If you simply are able to take that data, put it in cloud, in a data lake, and apply the basic AI framework around it, you could push back that analytics into the tablet of the guy who's about to make that decision. It could give him the creep, it could give him the graph, and how the specific product in question or the machine in question is reacting to time and its runnability. There might be a situation where this guy takes a middle road and says, I will buy the bearing, keep it in my warehouse, but I will not put it in until my analytics framework tells me that this bearing is getting really close to failure. I'm going to push it, and I will take it to the off-peak season where this line can take additional 10 days of downtime without incurring any additional costs from the network, and then do it, right? So that's, again, one of the examples where the truth lies somewhere in between, right? Between all the buzzwords, the truth lies somewhere in between. So again, going back from KPIs to causal intelligence, right? We first talk about describing things, what happened. We talk about diagnostics and prediction and prescription. So that's really the holy grail where the decision engine can prescribe what you should do. Now, we are not going to get there on day one, right? On day one, if you ever try to build these models, it'll give you wrong answers. And mark my words, I'm saying this again, it'll give you wrong answers. You will say, this does not work. This is a disaster. Let me go back to my old ways of doing things. I know way more than all of this stuff. And that's where you stop and you remind yourself that this is still in its stages of infancy, right? You remind yourself that 5 years or 2 years or 3 years from now, the guys who will sit through it, the guys who will be believers or companies who will continue to invest in it, small baby steps, are the ones that are going to come on top of it, right? So again, in essence, what we are saying is when disruption hits, you're ready, and you're ready not because you know what happened in the past, but your models are telling you what is predicted, right? It's telling you what you can do, what are the options A, B, and C, what are some of your core competencies and how you can leverage them, right? Now, coming back to the supplier-vendor relationships, at the end of the day, we are suppliers to somebody. We could be a supplier to a Gen Z person, or we could be a supplier to a large big box retailer. At the end of the day, that individual or that company can make a decision. Someone can outbid us. We could be out of the RFQ cycle in the next year. Everything that we have built around that can go away. We could be as good as our pricing. However, it doesn't have to be like that, right? Let me give you another example. In the future state, if your company or anybody's company who's supplying a widget that many other people are supplying also offers a tracking portal to your customer that allows them to reduce their headcount by 10, that says that all your loads are automatically tracking in this portal, and if a truck doesn't pick up on time, 2 hours later, that load will be pulled, reassigned to or tendered to another carrier, and the new pickup appointment will start showing in the portal. That's it. Now, is it easy to do? No. Will that make your customer think twice before they try to change you out? Why? Because you have just suddenly increased your embeddedness in the customer. You have suddenly said that we go beyond our product. We are offering you a bouquet of product and services. If you continue to work with us, it's not just the product you will get. You will get the ability to run a very lean organization on your end. Similarly, when it comes to planning, right? There are multiple people deployed just to understand what their customer or their vendor is going to give them, right? Could you come up with a solution that tells them that, hey, we can let you run a very lean organization because we are leveraging a technology that allows you to constantly monitor what you are making, where you are making, and how much you are making. And this does not have to have 10 people on your end watching us, right? That faith is going to come through clean data and technology. So again, what this will allow you to do is try to move beyond just being a product, but more of a service, right? Now, again, this is a philosophical transformation. I'm not going to dwell too much around it, but primarily, right, the core of it says that we have the framework, we have the walls, and we have the bricks, everything that has been placed, that's been going around from years with the data. If we can put a roof around it and wrap it up in a product, that's where a lot of success is going to come from. Now, this brings us to the elephant in the room, right, that everyone talks about. What happens to our people? Do we fire everyone? Does systems run our shows? We could have that dystopian approach and say that, well, we will all be replaced by machine. And maybe that'll happen sometime. But as far as right now, I will assert that as ops managers and people running operations, we need to have a more optimistic approach to it. Instead of saying that, hey, the bot is going to take up your job. We need to understand how that is going to enable us, how that is going to take away the boring, the mundane, the stuff that really makes people cringe and not want to come to work, right? Just going back to our previous example, right, where the planning team spend hours trying to collate data from their production schedules, from optimization models, and then just coming back and saying, oh, all the Excel sheets are done, this is the decision. They could potentially be spending their time trying to figure out what the next 2 years of their planning infrastructure is going to look like. They could be more into strategic planning. They could be more working with their career relations team to understand where the trucks should be. And above and beyond, they will truly be able to unlock the human capital that makes smart people work for great companies, right? And I'm going to repeat that again. That makes smart people work for great companies. Why is that important to think? Because the more you make people do repetitive stuff, the more their intellectual capital drops. Nobody is by the virtue of just being a human intelligent or not intelligent. It's kind of problems they're exposed to, right? And if we are constantly having someone sit down and track a load, call a carrier and do that 7 days a week, that is in effect the human workforce you will be creating. However, if you are able to unlock their capital or human capital and ask them to get involved in more strategic affairs, and strategy doesn't have to be around building PowerPoints, right? I'm talking about strategy in motion. I'm talking about people who make decisions, not just follow an SOP and click buttons, right? So this will obviously require a cultural shift, right? We cannot just go and buy a new tech stack and expect things to fall in place. We will have to reward certain kind of employees. We will have to go through the change management process and remind everyone that this is here to stay, and we will have to mold our culture around it, right? So you might have heard this before, that is this optional? We can all be an ostrich and put our head in the sand and say, this is all going to go away. People said that about internet, right, back in the days. And some of them were right for a while, right? All of these super cycles come with its own bust. Stocks gets pulled forward. The profits are just suddenly shows as explosive. VCs invest ton of money in basically companies just that have a .ai around it. And this is nothing new, right? And what's going to happen is there will be a bubble. There will be a massive crash around these buzzwords. And a lot of disbelievers will win. They'll say, I told you, none of this works. And they'll go back to their old ways of doing things. But the change will happen sometime when the dust is about to settle. And most of the people would have thought this is never going to come back. The change will happen very slowly, in a very painful way. And then you'll blink your eye and you'll imagine that, oh, I never thought about this. The world actually has changed around me, right? A similar thing has happened in the past with multiple other technology revolutions, where the big thing is that constraints never disappear, right? They just move and migrate to a place where we are not looking, right? This is something I'm really passionate about, and I will say that having tracked or read through everything that happened when farming got mechanized, to the time that internet came, to the time that we saw the data supercycle hit us, almost all of them had a similar theme. People thought the constraints will go away. The constraints do not go away. They just shift to a new area, and it is going to be us, operators and managers and companies, who decide where we are ready for the new world or not. Thank you.